everybody, it's Joe Perrott, founder of the Ladies Working Dog Group. Are you feeling stuck with your Gundog training? Trust me, you're not alone, and that's exactly why you need to be here. Every week, we're bringing you the best tips and hacks to make training your Gundog easy peasy. We'll keep it straightforward, no fuss, just actionable guidance that you can put straight to use. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of Found It, Fetched It. This week we are going to be talking to guest speaker Sophie Lawson all about crafting the perfect dog den. So I've met Sophie this year at the game fair. I've been following her beforehand online. She started the company after being inspired by her own dogs, and she wanted to create a dog crate that was functional but also provided comfort and space for her dogs during car rides. Welcome, Sophie. I can't wait to talk to you all about this. How are you today?
I'm really well, thank you, Jo.
When I came and I actually finally met you, I knew I wanted to see your crate anyway because I'm looking for a crate myself. But I was inspired by the whole story and the whole difference of the design, because for me, when I started looking, I thought a crate is a crate, but they all have the same functionality. But yours really did catch my eye. So before we go into all about the crate, can we start by talking about your background before crates?
Okay, so I'm a Suffolk girl. I was brought up in the countryside and I'm one of 4 daughters. So my childhood has just always been about the outdoors. And I can just remember building tree houses and going out and swimming in the lakes and making rafts. And we've always had a dog with us on these adventures. So I've just really always enjoyed being outside. And then I got a little bit older, and then the conversation started happening where people were asking, so what are you going to do when you grow up, Sophie? Are you going to be a solicitor? Are you going to be a farmer? And the truth was that this was something I didn't know myself. And when I was at school, people were applying for universities and whatnot. And I was that one person in the whole class that was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to go to university because I just don't know what I'm going to do. I've always been gregarious. I've loved people, but I was just so unsure. So I took a whole year out and I just immersed myself in the working world. And I worked for a marketing company, and then I went traveling, and I just met so many amazing people along the way. And I realized how much I enjoyed people and how I also enjoyed businesses as well. I think a lot of that is down to my dad, because he's always got 8 million ideas going on, and he's always got something new happening. And so afterwards, I was in the south of France as an au pair, and I was like, you know what, I am gonna go to university, and I think I'm gonna do marketing because I really quite enjoy delving more into the psychology of people and consumers. And hopefully that might lead me down a path where I can start my own business one day. And so I did. I went through clearing, and within a week and a half, I got back to the UK and I started my degree. But when we were at uni, we had to do a project. And one of the projects was rebranding a business, a local business. And I decided to choose my sister's business, which was a floristry. And I really enjoyed redesigning her logo, creating a website, thinking of new ideas on how we could push her business forward. And from that moment on, I was like, you know what? I really want the opportunity to be able to do exactly the same thing, but for myself. After uni, I then dipped into jobs. I was doing digital marketing and I was a event coordinator. And I've always just remember catching myself daydreaming about that moment that I would come up with the next great idea, and then I could focus on my energy. And it just never really seemed to happen for a good few years. And life moved on. I moved to Norwich, I renovated a home, and luckily I bought and sold at the right time. So I had earned a little bit of money, and I put that money to the side thinking that is for when I come up with an idea and I start the business. And actually, the dog den only happened through an amalgamation of things. In COVID, my sister had a litter, and I was like, oh God, I really want to get a dog because I need some sort of purpose. I need some responsibility, something to get me up in the morning. And I've always had dogs in my life, and my Labrador Holly, she was getting old. And so I got my beautiful chocolate working Cocker Spaniel Margot. And so Margs would just spend every second of every day with me, and she'd come in the back of the car. And soon my car turned into a bit of a disaster zone, as I'm sure many people can probably relate. Mud, sand, hair, it was just a nightmare. And she always used to go on the back seat because safety for me wasn't even something I even thought about. And it was this one occasion that I was driving with Callum, my partner, and Margie was in the back seat, and he had to brake really suddenly. And when he braked, she flew all the way through over to the radio, like stereo area. I was like shocked and shaken. And I was just like, oh my God, until you're in that moment, you don't really realize what could happen if you got into a car crash. So it was that growing concern that we needed to house her in a crate in our car, coupled with a funny little story, really. But my dad, he was chatting to a friend of his one day, and his friend said, Adrian, why can't you make the aardvarks for dogs? Now, the aardvarks are, I don't know, just to explain it to everyone, the aardvarks are pig huts. Jeremy Clarkson calls them pigloos. And that's my dad's design. And because obviously we're pig farmers and whatnot. So he revolutionized pig shelters. And this guy was saying, Adrian, listen, all of these dog crates out there on the market, they're all so expensive. As soon as you buy one and you change your car 5 years later, you have to buy another one. They're really inconvenient. Surely you could make something. And then my dad got home that day and he obviously knew that I was looking for something to do, and I was dog crazy, training Margot all the time and always off on an adventure every weekend. And he said, Sophs, he said, hey, why don't we think about doing this? And I thought, you know what? This is quite a good idea. Now, for those people that don't know the difference between an aardvark and a regular pig hut, regular pig huts are made of metal, just like regular dog crates. Aardvarks are made from twin-skinned rotomolded plastic. And that's the same material that we've used for the dog den. The difference is between the metal and the rotomolded plastic is it's 2 layers of plastic with an air gap in the middle, and that keeps the pigs cooler on a hot day. So when they're outside in the field, they're not just rolling around in mud the whole time. They can actually cool off inside. And those properties are really quite crucial for any animal, including dogs, obviously. So anyway, a week went by and I'd spent that whole week vigorously coming up with researching, doing as much due diligence as I possibly could. And I was like, there is a gap in the market for something. There's a gap in the market for not just a crate to go in the back of your car that's safe, but also a crate that can be moved into your house, taken on camping trips, in the back of vans or pickup trucks, and something that would keep your dog warmer on a cold day and vice versa on a warmer day. And so from that moment on, I actually invested quite a lot of time into coming up with some designs, knowing that 9 times out of 10, this was not going to work and it wasn't going to actually lead to anything. But the more time that I put into it and the more research that I did, the more I realized that I might have just found my idea.
I remember seeing it when you had something like 20 followers, I think, on Instagram. I don't, it showed it to me and it wasn't an ad or anything. And I was like, oh my God, I love this. And I was like, okay, what's this company about? And that's why like we started chatting and things. But what I loved about it straight away is it's different, isn't it? It's innovative. But sometimes I look at crates and I'm thinking, is it safe? Because safety is paramount. But I thought, oh my God, I could handle that inside and outside of my car. And even when I picked it up at the show, because I came to see you in the show, I still hadn't made up my mind. I was like, let's go see one of these little suckers and see what it's like. I could quite easily pick it up.
Yeah.
I loved what you could do with it. But before we go into what it does, let's talk about safety, because everybody's okay, this is amazing. Sophie's made a dog crate, but is that dog crate safe? Because like you just said, we want to make sure first that our dogs are safe.
Absolutely. And obviously for me, I learned that kind of the hard way. Could have been a lot worse, but safety is key. And the more trade shows that we've done and the more people we speak to, the more people ask us, is it crash tested? And crash tested is a really interesting subject. I don't need to bore everyone with the technical details, but if you buy a carrier for your child, you will Google crash tested carriers and it will come up with the safest one. And that's all regulated here in the UK and the EU. Whereas if you type in crash tested dog box, any company can claim that their dog box lead harness is crash tested, but in fact, there's zero criteria, there's zero regulations in the UK and the EU. So this essentially means that a crash test could be something as simple as a car bumping into another car at 5 miles an hour, and then that company could market it as independently crash tested. And obviously, once we designed it, we were then at the stage where we wanted to get it crash tested, and I assumed that I'd have to call up a impact center, then they would have a whole list of, yep, this is what we're going to do, these are all the tests we're going to do, and then it would be pretty easy and we'd get it done. And I was shocked. I really was, because I called up a few and they wanted me to design the test, and they assured me that they would do everything in order for the product to pass, even though there is no pass and there is no fail because there is no criteria. So I was in two minds. Obviously, I could have done two things. I could have just said, yeah, let's do an easy test and then it's crash tested. We can add that to our website, all of our branding. We can tell everyone that it's crash tested and away we go. Because no one's going to come over and prosecute us because we falsely advertise, because there's no legislation. Or I could, and this is what I did do, I thought, you know what, this is a massive loophole. As a dog owner, if I'm buying something for my dog and it says it's crash tested, I expect it to be safe. And so I thought, no, we're going to make this safe. We're going to make this really safe. And that is one of the great things about the double wall rotomolded plastic, is because of the 2 layers of plastic, it's double the impact. It can take double the impact and it makes it really strong. And what we did originally is I contacted the Dynamic Impact Center originally because I wanted some safety straps made for the dog den so you could anchor it into the car so that it wouldn't move. And then we started talking about the crash test. And I said, let's go all out. And they said, okay, we can test it to a very severe pulse. And this pulse is the same pulse that rear car seats get crash tested to. You don't need to go any more severe. And it's also the exact same test that, I don't know if anyone's familiar, but the Center for Pet Safety, which is an organization in the USA, they use the same criteria to crash test dog products on the market. And one of the most famous ones is the Gunner Kennel, which is obviously renowned for being super strong and super safe. So what we did is we mimicked and we copied the exact same criteria and we did the exact same crash test as close as we possibly could at the Dynamic Impact Center. And we actually had to make a few changes to the model because originally we crash tested it up to 22 kilograms and the back just wasn't strong enough because the mass of the dog hits the back wall. If you're stopping suddenly, I wasn't happy with the flexing in the plastic. So what we did is we took the tool back to the tool maker and we reinforced the whole thing. So we've now redone it and it's crash tested up to 34 kilograms, which is really cool and really exciting. But the most interesting part of all of this was I wanted to test, out of my own curiosity, what other products that are crash tested, how they would perform doing the exact same test. And so we got a leading competitor and we did the exact same crash test under the exact same conditions, speed, pulse, weight, mass, everything. And the results were quite scary. So one of the big things that we want to do, and we're only 4 months old at the moment, is we don't want to start a fire between our competitors. What we want to do is we want to educate dog owners and dog box consumers of the importance of having a safe box. Because if you're spending money on something, it needs to do what it says. And so that's what the dog den is designed to do. And we will continue to improve it along the way.
This story horrifies me that this happens, because our dogs are the same as our family. So I'm just like, how has that happened? But I'm also amazed and inspired by your authenticity around this, because like you said, you could have just gone, yes, crash tested, and quite happily and legitimately and legally got away with it. But instead you went, actually, let's try to change our thinking around this as an industry. And I think that's massively important, because the reality is the laws in the UK say Highway Code, Animal Welfare Act, dog needs to be restrained or dog needs to be in a crate. It needs to have those things in place. But when you were talking to me about all this stuff, what we put our dogs in, we're assuming, and it's not through ignorance, it's just naivety, I suppose. We're assuming it's going to be totally fine, aren't we?
Honestly, it's scary. It really is, especially when you have brands who are established in any industry claiming something that hasn't necessarily been put to the test. But you want to know as a consumer and as a dog owner, because obviously I've got to run a business, but I've also got to protect my dog and other people's dog. You want to know that what you're buying is safe. And I think when people see the video that we will be publishing in our Safety September month, they will see that even with a 34-kilogram dog inside, it's not a real dog. We used a dummy dog just for everyone to be aware. But you can see the flexing and the way the plastic moves. And you can see that even potentially with a 36-kilogram dog, I would be surprised if there was a break or anything went severely wrong with that kind of a mass inside.
At 34, you're seeing no signs of breakage, no signs of it not being able to cope. So in reality, if you went to break point, you could be looking at 40 or 50, but you're not going to say it's suitable for those dogs. So really, as long as people stay within the weight tolerance, like it is for everything else, like pop-up tents, all those types of things, stay below that level, it isn't going to break, your dog is going to be safe.
Yeah, I would say so. So what we experienced during the crash test is we have our safety strap that goes over the top. And what happens is on a sled, and this sled accelerates to 49.7 kilometers per hour, and then it abruptly stops, like it stops within 0.1 second. And you have your dog den strapped down with all the straps that we are currently manufacturing, and we're going to be supplying in September to go alongside the dog dens. Those obviously anchor the dog den to the sled, but then the mass inside of the sled will then hit the back wall. And so that's when most of the force is gone, and then it rebounds obviously onto the two doors. So if you increase the mass, yes, you're going to have more sort of weight in there, so there'll be more of an impact. But we didn't have any kind of splitting. The great thing about the plastic is because it's plastic, it's flexible. And so if you imagine jumping, I don't know, let's say a building onto a trampoline versus jumping off a building onto a concrete floor or like a slab of metal, that's the difference. It's the flex. So what happened on top, there was slight flexing where the strap goes round the two curves, but that didn't penetrate onto the inner wall. So essentially inside, it's like a crumple zone almost. It popped in and then it popped straight out again within literally the blink of an eye. So that was the damage, and we've got the before and we've got the after photos as well, which is quite interesting for people to see.
Yeah, because if you think about it, when you look at something like, I don't know, a bike helmet's actually probably made, I know it's got the foam in between, but it is that ability to absorb the impact.
Exactly.
Rather than not absorb the impact that makes it work, isn't it? It's taking that for you. Talking now more about, because we've talked about safety, the aesthetics of it, it's really lovely to look at, but it also has that capability, doesn't it, of being cool inside or warm inside as you need, but also things inside it move, don't they? You can split it into two, have it in one. It's got a lot of flexibility of how you use it.
Absolutely. And that's all come down to the design, really. When you've got a dog box, you might have two dogs, you might want to separate. And so essentially, the dog den comes in 2 bits. You've got the base and the top, and then the base and the top are screwed together with twist screws. You don't need any kind of tools to unscrew them. And the idea is that if you want to take the top from the base to give it a really thorough clean, or to install the middle partition, then you can do quite easily. It takes literally 5 minutes. You just take the screws out, turn it around, and pop the partition in, or take it out. And yeah, the idea is that it's versatile. If you have a pup, then as that pup grows older, you can then open it up and it will have the full sort of space inside the dog den. It's designed, this current model is designed for 2 small dogs or 1 larger, medium-sized dog. But yeah, the idea is that it's super versatile, really. It's portable. It can go in and out of cars, in the house, especially the looks. Now, I think that has something to do with a woman being in charge of the design because the initial designs were quite rigid that my father and I came up with, and all those little tiny quirks, I'd say that's probably a little bit more of my input. But yeah, the idea is that it's aesthetically pleasing. I think nearly every dog owner owns a metal cage or crate that goes inside of their house, and they all look the same. They're all quite generic, but this is designed to be something a bit different, something a bit cooler. And so we've obviously got the 3 colors, and we're excited to be doing limited edition colors further on down the line and getting a little bit more creative with that. But yeah, I mean, there's so much room, there's so much scope for the whole business, really. We've got another size coming out soon as well, and we're going to be doing a single range as well. Lots going on.
I can remember leaving your stand and you had this mint green one, which first of all I wasn't really sold at, and the more I looked at it, I was like, oh, I do really like it. And then I got a little bit further down the row, and there was a mint green Land Rover.
I know.
And I was like, oh, if you bought that Land Rover and you put that in the back.
Honestly, and that is exactly it. People are like, oh, is that going to go with my Discovery or the inside? And like, people love it because it gives customers an option, and it makes the whole process a little bit more fun, because at the end of the day, a dog box is a dog box. But if you can make one look and feel aesthetically more exciting, then maybe hopefully we're onto a little bit of a winner there. But yeah.
When we first started talking, you were quite nervous for being on a podcast, as most people are when it's the first time they've done it. And then as we've got chatting, you're talking about the thing that you are creating, you completely forgot about it, and I love that. Is this now your thing? Is this the thing that you're like, oh my God, this is the thing I've been waiting to do?
Yeah, without a doubt. Like, it's just insane. These designs were created, I'd say probably about a year and a half ago now. And that all started with sketching, and then the sketches then turned into me going to the DIY shop and picking up insulation boards and cutting out different concepts and saying, oh, does that look right? Is that the right height? Is that going to fit in this car? Is that? And then it went to going to the manufacturer and pitching it to him, and he wasn't quite sure at the start. But since launching 4 months ago, I've really started to realize that this is going to be big, and it's really exciting. At the moment, it's my full-time thing. My partner Callum, he comes and does all the trade shows and whatnot, but we've had a lot of interest. We've had a lot of people asking for collaborations, and the scope is massive because it's the dog industry, of course. We've got some amazing connections, which we're really fortunate to have, but also we've got some interesting ideas. So as long as things carry on the way that they've started, hopefully, yeah, this will be a full-time thing.
When I picked it up, I was like, oh yeah, this is cool, because the one thing I've struggled with, my dad introduced me to it. So we had a pickup truck and we had a trans canine. Yeah. And I was like, Dad, this is so heavy, because it like literally filled the back of it. And every time we wanted to swap the vehicle over to just be in a vehicle to carry maybe, I don't know, wood or whatever it was going to carry, it was like, pull this big rugged thing out. And then, like you said, we're cleaning it. He'd take me all wash box out, and I'd be like, Dad, do you know how difficult the corners are? They drive me insane. It's hands and knees with a toothbrush type of thing. And I'm like, I don't give this much attention to my shower, let alone to the dog's box. I love the whole capability of it of coming apart. And like you said, if it was sat in your house, because you had guests or visitors, you're like, actually, I need the box in today because this person wouldn't want them around them. my dogs don't jump up, but they might not want them around them. It could quite easily do that. And if you were like, I don't know, at an Airbnb, it could quite easily come in with you. Or if you're visiting people, it could just do so many things. Why do you think that it's going to go for you? Because I know when I saw it, I wanted you to come on here and talk to people so people are aware of this, because people in our community are constantly buying dog boxes, because every time you change your vehicle, I've gone through it myself, you're like, that doesn't work anymore. I need to sell that crate and get this crate.
Yes.
But where do you see it going now in a market that is looking for the solution you're offering?
Yeah, you know what, you're totally right. And from a business point of view, we've made the worst business decision by making a good product that can be used in a variety of vehicles, which means that after 5 years, we're not going to make repeat sales necessarily. But it's all really exciting. Where I see this going, ideally, I would love this. I'd love the dog den to be the best dog box on the UK market. It's never going to be a dog box that's bespoke to vehicles. We're only going to be able to make a variety of sizes due to the whole process and how we actually make it. But the idea is that it's not just a functional, safe, fun dog box. It's also something that's more of a brand and more of a statement. I want people to look at it like they look at a Yeti flask or a Stanley cup, and it needs to have some sort of desirability about the brand. But that's what I'm trying to cultivate. And as time goes on, we won't just be dog dens, we'll be dog dens, and we'll go into different avenues of potentially apparel or potentially training gear, outdoor gear, etc. Because there's such a market for it. And if people know and they're satisfied with the quality of the dog den, then they will trust the rest of the brand. And that's exactly what I want to do anyway. I want it to be a high quality brand that people love and they support, because it is British. Everything about it is British as well, which in this day and age is not great for small businesses, but it's lovely to be able to support other British manufacturers. But yeah, hopefully the idea would be that most people that buy it when they've got a new pup, or they've got a new dog, or they've got a new car, they think about, oh, I might get a dog den instead of XYZ.
I think you'll actually sell more in some ways. I know this sounds odd, but I think rather than it being, the dog crates are normally predominantly seen within the working dog market. I think you would, with the design and the aesthetics of it, be able to take it into the normal market, because this has got the ability to go, oh, let's pop that in for the dogs to go down the beach this weekend, keep the car clean, but then pop it back out. It almost reminds me of, not in its look, but you know, a little bit like a roof box. It's got that like in out easiness about it, which is so lovely to have. Also, I can so see you being like, and here is our dog den place boards, and here's our dog den in boxes, because showed me what happened. It was a really warm day when we were in the game fair, and you were like, look what happens if you hold something that reads temperature inside the box, and it was outside on the grass, and I was like, this isn't going to make a big massive difference out here. And I think whilst I was standing with you, it dropped a couple of degrees, and I was like, that make a significant amount to a dog if you were even in a training field, being able to pop them in. And I was really shocked, I've got to be honest. I was thinking, how does this magic even work? Because the front is like a beautiful mesh front, but how is this managing to do that?
That's the twin skin. That's the double wool rotomolded for you. That's literally it. And I will say something else that's really important about the colors is that obviously the lighter the color, the cooler it's going to be inside. It's really key as well not to just assume that because it does regulate your dog's temperature, that you know, when your dog's in the boot of your car on a warmer day, it's going to be fine. It's not. It needs to have constant airflow going through those back vents or through the front vents or wherever. So when it's in a car boot, attaching fans to the back of it on a hot day will increase that airflow, and then the dog den will do the rest. So it is quite shocking, the temperature difference between the different colors, but also between a CNC dog box versus an aluminium dog box versus a dog den. I think that when you see it for yourself, that's when you actually do realize. And what's lovely as well is having some customers send me videos and images of their dogs outside on a hot day, because we have had a few here in Suffolk over the past month, and their dogs could be anywhere. They could be under a tree in the shade, or they could be absolutely anywhere, but they're choosing to be in a dog den with the doors wide open and having their afternoon naps in there. And that's because it is cooler inside as opposed to alternatives, it just shows the magic of the double wool rotor molded aspect.
It'll quite easily fit 2 spaniels on it, no problem at all.
Yeah.
Look, people have to make the choice now. But as far as like spaniels now go, they'd be great. 1 lab stretched out, I think would be great. I don't know, do people have 2 labs in them? Because I was trying to imagine labs to the size of it.
Yeah, good question. It's designed for spaniels. I based it off my spaniel. It's designed for a spaniel size. That you can fit Labradors in it. We have got people that have had Labradors. We've had people that have had pointers in it. And the main thing is the height. It's just a little bit low, so that your lab, if you've got a really slim lab, it'll be fine. But if you've got a slightly larger lab, then yeah, it's just a little bit too low. That's why we're making the larger size. So the larger size is designed for Labradors, and it's got that extra height. And it also means that when you put the middle partition in, you can separate 2 labs and they both will have enough space. But also, you don't want the dogs to have too much space, because the more confined they actually are inside, the safer they are when they're traveling. So it really depends on what you're going to be using it for.
This has been a fantastic podcast. You have definitely given people loads of things to think about when it comes to choosing what crash tested means.
Yeah.
And we must all thank you for the time and effort you've put into it, and the cost of even getting something in the UK that can be used in the future as a standard, because that, like I said, it didn't exist. To finish up this podcast, because I know everybody's now going to go online, and in the show notes I'm going to put in your website and your Instagram. But just for people who are listening, what is your website and your Instagram?
Our website is thedogden.co.uk, and Instagram we're Dog Den Diaries. That's us.
Fabulous. And just for our global listeners, do you ship abroad yet?
At the moment, no, we don't ship abroad, but we've had quite a lot of interest from Germany. And so that's something that we're going to be looking into after we've calmed down a little bit and we've had the opportunity to get our ducks in order and start thinking about international growth. But yeah, that will be something for the future.
Yeah, because a lot of people listening now find out about you. We are joining you at, like I said, the very start.
Yeah.
A quick tip one of our members gave us was, when you want to check out the temperature, obviously you never leave them unaided or in hot car, etc. She's got a greenhouse thermometer that's attached to an app on her phone, and it literally is a screen. She keeps it in the corner of the crate. It's secured to the top corner of the crate, and when she looks at her app, it tells her all the time what the temperature is in the crate at the time. And I think it's like 99. We've got a link to it on our Amazon store, and it's just, what a fantastic idea. Obviously, you would never leave your dog in anything on its own. But just for her, if she's like driving the car, she can just like glance at it. She knows exactly what's going on in the back. To finish off our call, I want to talk to you as a fellow business owner.
Yeah.
Has this been amazingly overwhelming?
Oh, wow. I'm 4 months in. It's been incredible from the start. Even when we went to the first show, we've done 7 shows now, and every single time I still get that buzz, even from the first sale. But as a business owner, I've never had a business. I've always wanted one, and I've always underestimated actually how hard it is. I'm wearing 8 different hats. It's managing the design, the supply, the logistics, the accountancy, the marketing, and it's not easy, but it's so exciting. Yesterday, we reached one of our goals that I'd set 4 months ago, and that was a dream, ultimately. I can't really disclose it right now, but we're growing really fast, and it does make it difficult because the stress is real, and refining our supply chain is also real. But we will soon get to a stage where everything is seamless, and it just flows, and it's every day. And then that will open up new opportunities for me to get creative again and start thinking about where we're going to next. But yeah, it's all been really exciting. The future I'm super excited for, but I also need to remain super grounded because 9 out of 10 businesses fail, and this could be one of them. I hopefully, touch wood, it won't be, but you just don't know, do you? And there's no point in not trying for fear of that. So we're giving it everything that we've got. And yeah, hopefully people in the next few years will know all about Dog Den, and it will be something that they will be looking to save up for when they get their new or their first dog.
Fabulous. I don't think it's going to fail. I'd be shocked if it does. You've come at it with what I think is a sensible approach to business. My dad used to say business is a little bit like a duck, really calm on the top, looks all serene. He said, and you just paddle, I won't put the swear word in, underneath. And I think that's quite right. Like, people look at things and go, oh my God, look at that growing, so amazing. And they just don't see the franticness underneath as you try to get it all to go. Thank you so much. For anybody who wants to even just follow Sophie's journey, please go follow her on Instagram. Being part of communities like this encourages other people to find out about these things. And as another small business, just like Sophie's small business, we need you to subscribe, to review, to follow, to like, all those things that you may not think are really important. They really do make a massive difference in people finding out we exist in the first place. So thank you, Sophie. We cannot wait to see some pictures, to see what's going on, to watch your video. Although it's scary, it'll be very interesting to find out exactly how the dummy dog reacts in that situation. And for anybody else who wants to find out more, please go check out Sophie's website. Thank you all for being with us, and we shall see you all next week.
Thank you, Jo.
That's it for today's episode. A massive thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to head over to the LWDG and sign up for our membership. Get access to expert-led training, a wonderfully supportive community, and the resources you need to become a confident and skilled gun dog trainer. Let's take this journey together, because no woman should have to train her gun dog alone. We'll see you all next week.